Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're just getting our technical mumbo jumbo in line and look forward to starting the conversation in just about a minute.
Okay. Is everyone ready? Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, everybody who has joined us today, at least in Cincinnati, on this very cold, windy day. We appreciate you being here. Assalamu alaikum and Bismillah. I'd like to begin with just introducing myself. My name is Dr. Samina Sohail, and my co-host is Shakir-Ahmed, and she is well known to our community, past board chair of the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati. And as we get started, I just want to give you a little bit of background as to what our goal is today and what we do. We started these conversations called Candid Community Conversations almost 2 years ago now, when COVID first began. And initially, it was to inform and educate our community about issues relevant to our society, starting with COVID education and the pandemic and how to navigate it. And this evolved into other thought-provoking discussions, including topics around race and discrimination in our country, the role Muslim Americans play in this process, mental health awareness, domestic violence awareness, and much more. We have a YouTube channel with Islamic Center, and there's a playlist with all of our programs, which we encourage you to listen to. And today, before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that as an Islamic Center, we are committed to upholding the values of our religion, and any views expressed, written, recorded, or communicated by the speakers do not necessarily represent the views of the center. We are committed to bringing different voices with diverse, relevant experiences, and unless otherwise stated, these voices are not experts or professionals, but rather a conversation about their experience. And the nature of such candid conversations is that at times they will be beyond people's comfort zones, but if you stick with us, inshallah, you will be enriched. With that, I'll ask Shakila to introduce today's session.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are really looking forward to the conversation today. The topic is really under disability awareness, but it's really about hearing some powerful stories. And we do have a national expert with us today in order to both illuminate those stories, help you understand what families with family members who have disabilities of varying types are dealing with, what are the resources available, and how it is that we as a Muslim American community and as a community as a whole can be more supportive and really be the best of its kind. And so we're really, really looking forward. I will take the privilege of announcing our initial speaker, who is a national level speaker, Joohi Tahir, co-founder and executive director of Muhsen. As a graduate of Boston University with a degree in business management and having spent over 20 years excelling in corporate world, speaking globally about strategies in the marketing field in the UK, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Malaysia, and Turkey, Joohi turned her talents to become a national advocate for Muslims with disability. This led to her involvement in co-founding and appointment as executive director of Muslim Understanding and Helping, Special Educational Needs, Muhsen. Muhsen is a revolutionary nonprofit founded by Sheikh Omar Suleiman. I know our community is very familiar and very respectful of Sheikh Suleiman. In consultation with Sheikh Omar, Joohi laid out, planned, and built the organizational programs and services which we know as Muhsen. With her own family being affected by disability, Joohi has been outspoken over the last 15 years, specifically about the need for inclusion for her daughter, who is on the autism spectrum, as well as many other families. She started with small community initiatives, talks, support groups, consulting with masjid administrators and mainstream scholars about the need for our communities to be more aware and be more accessible for people in our communities with disability. As a leader of this organization, Joohi advocates and markets the needs for which Muhsen implements programs and services across North America, promoting inclusion of all members of the community impactedly special needs through awareness, accommodation, and acceptance. She has been a recipient of MWA 2015 Inspiring Women's Award and top 7 Muslim American women to be celebrated in 2017. And I'm sure there are many things that, we are not able to cover. I will say that the work of Muhsen is significant in this conversation because the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati has gone through the process and is silver certified with Muhsen. And it's, as we'll learn, an ongoing process. So it's very important that we understand what that means. And Joohi, please share with us your story and what it means to be a silver sponsor and all of the other things that would help us set the stage for the conversation today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shakila. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. I thank you for that warm welcome. I thank ICGC today for this opportunity to speak with all of you. And you kind of got a lot of that background. There are a lot of words there, but I'm just a mom. I'm just a sister. I'm just a community member. And at the end of the day, it's so refreshing to have this candid conversation. As someone who was born in London, England, grew up here in my early childhood, immigrated out here, lived on the East Coast. Now I live in the Midwest, just outside Chicago for the last 30 years. As I mentioned, probably one of my most important roles has been as a mom and as a community member. In between my career, I, with the help of my amazing husband, raised 3 daughters, mashallah. And one of them, she is on the autism spectrum. And I knew I was the only one, I wasn't the only one in the community. As you know, we went through this journey. We struggled, but there really wasn't anybody else to talk to who was coming forward. I have to preface this conversation with the fact that she is now, mashallah, almost 22. So I'm talking a long time ago was when we started on this journey. And things were very different than they are today. And a lot of the supports and services that are in place now, we just didn't have. I like to talk about, actually it's painful, but I do talk about something called the fractured family syndrome. That's something that I coined that term because a lot of us and these amazing women on this panel that you're going to hear from will tell you that we live sometimes a fractured family syndrome. And that means that simply all of our family as a whole, where we were often not able to enjoy the things that families do together. And one of them was that immense feeling of isolation from community. We were unable to access our community fully as a family. I mentioned I have other daughters. They were able to attend masjid functions. They were able to attend things in the community. They were able to attend weekend school programs. Yet one of our family members was never able to be included in that way, and that was my daughter. And in my many, many years, I realized that I was wanting the same things for my family that anybody else was. And this was very challenging for people in our shoes as special needs community members. So fast forward a little bit to 2012, a year of huge milestones for me in my life. And on the topic of, challenges, the naysayers would say, oh, how are you ever going to go to Hajj? And I had just made the intention. My husband and I wanted to go to Hajj, and we went to Hajj. Alhamdulillah, we were able to leave our daughter and all of our children in the hands of very capable caregivers and family members. And alhamdulillah, we just took that plunge and we went to Hajj. I say 2 very important milestones that year because it was the year that we met Sheikh Omar Suleiman at Hajj and had that candid conversation, if I can say. I've never really been someone who's been very shy, and if something is on my mind, I'm going to say it. And one of the things I did in those blessed days of Hajj was talk to Sheikh Omar about our family and about the need for people like him who had a platform to really come forward and advocate for our community. I explained to him that we're not alone. There were several families like us. It's just we needed to pull them out of the woodworks, so to say. So the birth of this organization that I lead today, that I'm representing, Muhsen, was actually at Hajj. And this was an idea that, in a nutshell, he already had this idea. He is the founder of the organization, mashallah, but really hadn't moved forward with it because he knew what disability does to a family. His own mother dealt with disability throughout her young life. And at the time, she had already passed. And so this was something that was already on his mind. He had that vision. And after Hajj, I presented a plan. And we laid out what could be a solution to addressing this topic, which was really taboo. I mean, you really didn't have people walking around in 2012, 2013 talking about disability. So it was that recent that, speaking of disability was, it just wasn't done. There was a lot of stigma around it, which you'll hear more about stigma later today. It felt like no one cared in the Muslim community. And yes, I'm going to say it still feels sometimes like no one cares in the Muslim community unless it's impacting them. At the time, many of us were very bitter. You go through many stages as a parent, as a caregiver. There's the denial, there's the anger, there's the let me fix it. There's, you feel very, almost feel like, angry about the situation. And it's okay to say that, but we are all human beings. But at the end of the day, I tried to channel that and I tried to change that to what can be done, what can I do in my feeble, way. And alhamdulillah, it was through that journey to Hajj and coming out of it and understanding that maybe this is the purpose, maybe this is why. And so we talked, Sheikh Omar and I spoke about how this can't be something where we just create awareness. We have to be able to, walk it on the ground and do something that's actually going to be, meaningful and that's going to impact people's lives. And so these families that we're missing and that were, had the experiences that we had, how do we bring them in? And it's not always just the individual with special needs. It's the siblings, it's the caregivers, like I mentioned, the extended family that deals with this. So I want to share some statistics really quickly, not to get too deep into it, but this was something that the organizers wanted me to share. External research as well as internal research at Muhsen shows that there are 600,000 Muslims living with disability in the US right now. A form of disability, whether it's physical, neurological, cognitive, it's a huge staggering number. That mirrors the stats in the country, which are roughly 20% of the population. Also, ISPU recently released that it's 1 in 4 Muslims have some form of disability. I mean, really think about that. You may not see them all, some are invisible. We did at Muhsen a needs survey. So it's a needs assessment. And, we surveyed, hundreds of families around the country. And we learned that 70% surveyed had developmental disabilities. That means things like autism, Down syndrome, intellectual disability, 70%. And we also learned that 65% of the Muslims that were surveyed reported that their family member was under the age of 18. And again, Muslims in general are a younger population, but we're talking about a lot of children impacted. Now, that doesn't mean there are not adults out there with disabilities, there certainly are. But the notion, that these people want to stay away or want to be isolated or don't talk to me, I don't want to be in the public. That's incorrect because 80% of these families reported that they wanted to be part of groups and support groups and groups with other families like themselves. And then finally, we asked about, family members' acceptance and accessibility and how they would rate that in their community. And the rating was 5.5 out of 10, which is dismal. So that led us to develop solutions and programs and grassroots support. So we didn't want to just give people programs. We wanted to tell people, this is the answer to what you've been asking for. So, it was really grounded in research and asking for feedback. So we asked specific needs about, what they were looking for. And just as general information, I want to hit on some things that these families told us. And if there's any list, a comprehensive list that any masjid or community leader out there or board member out there is listening to, this is one of those lists that you should pay attention to. There were over 3,000 requests, and the types of things people wanted: access to programs and classes. They wanted open houses for families to meet socially. They wanted they wanted just straight weekend school, Saturday, Sunday school options for people living with disabilities. They wanted youth programs, childcare options, quiet rooms, physical accessibility, parking, ramps, elevators, bathroom accessibility. They wanted specialized childcare at these events. People asked for large print and Braille Qur'ans. They asked for sign language to be able to just understand what a khutbah was, or a class, or a talk. They wanted grief counseling. They wanted emotional support. And they wanted special lighting, sensory considerations within the communities and the masjids. So this is just, like in a nutshell, over 3,000 requests that just came into Muhsen. And, again, these were very, very important. And it kind of brings me to our relationship with several masajid across the country and Canada. Almost 8 years now after our launch, it took us a couple of years to put the whole program together, register ourselves as a nonprofit. MashaAllah, we work with, communities across the country. ICGC is a silver certified Muhsen masjid on their way to gold, inshallah. They've completed several requirements, among which are general accessibility. There's, a checklist on the website if anyone's interested in checking it out, but basically they've met requirements with the accessibility to become more inclusive. There was a youth workshop. They've completed awareness events, khutbahs on the topic of disabilities, and then there's so much more to strive for. The program doesn't end at one level. It's designed to keep on building ihsan, getting better and better. And along with that, the future programs, you can see and you can request when a masjid does cross into the gold level, would be childcare at events, would be support groups with professionals, would be sign language services, community service projects together, a young adult day program, and so many more things. We're very proud of the efforts at ICGC. It's always been a warm and welcoming community for Muhsen. We feel, alhamdulillah, this is all the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's all the hard work of our teams across the country who are all predominantly volunteers. But Muhsen is meeting the challenges of families with special needs through our robust programming that I just described. Sharing, just where we've been and where we are now. We started with 2 masjids. We started with 2 chapters. And today, alhamdulillah, we're at 73 certified masjids. We're at 18 weekend school programs. We're at 9 chapters. Thousands and thousands of individuals and hundreds of families are being supported, young and old, all through just this simple idea of thinking about your other brothers and sisters in the community and what they need. We now have disability themed khutbahs. We have Ramadan special events. We have accommodations at all national major conventions. And again, it's always, one of my favorite programs. We have had 3 Umrah trips for individuals and families with special needs, which has been monumental and innovative and never done before, a lot of these things. The future is bright. I know there have been challenges. I know there are families that are feeling and living that trauma every day. I am one of those families that every day is a challenge. And as a parent, as you see a loved one with any kind of special needs. But I believe, looking at where we've been and where we are and where we're going, and now what you're going to hear from the rest of the panel, I ask that you pray for our team. I ask that you pray for the organization, our supporters. We're making strides. People are changing, and we should I'll leave you with this thought that we should all just want for our brother what we want for ourselves. This is an important hadith. This is grounded in the sunnah of our deen. And inshallah, if we can just all think that way, we can make and build a better community together, inshallah. So I will end with that, but I will leave you with just these amazing stories, real life stories on the ground, as I pass it off to my fellow panelists. And thank you so much for listening. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Joohi. It takes a lot of courage for you and also for our other panelists to share what you have and will be sharing today, and we appreciate that. I think my personal goal is that nobody in this community ever feels like the Muslim community doesn't care. And inshallah, step by step, we will get there, so that next time we do this, you don't have to say that, inshallah. And I was just reflecting, you said you were on that Umrah trip in 2012, and such a beautiful place. And what started with an idea, you just acted upon it. And where you are today is truly remarkable. And it's true testament to what good intentions and work can bring about. So may Allah bless you and reward you and everybody for doing this wonderful work. So.
Thank you.
And with that, I'd like to introduce our panelist. Let's see here. It is, yes. So our first panelist is Ms. Hadia Khan. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a background about her, and then we'll ask her to start speaking. While completing her bachelor's degree in social work and economics from the University of Punjab in Lahore, Pakistan, Hadia knew she wanted to enrich the lives of others. After becoming the mother to a nonverbal son with global and developmental delays, she began dedicating her time to improving the lives of those with developmental disabilities with the goal of making them an integral part of society. Hadia has gained valuable experience through 7 years of work as a resource specialist at a nonprofit and through serving on various boards, DDBP Family Advisory Board, Ethics Committee, NUCU Board, PICU Board, Hematology Board, and Family Advisory Board at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Furthermore, she works with audiologists and SLPs at UC and Cincinnati Children to provide them with a parent perspective on raising a child with differing abilities. She completed her parent mentor training through UCUCEDD, and in 2016 concluded her LEND, Leadership, Education, and Neurodevelopmental Disability Training. Through membership with Ohio Family to Family Program, Common Thread Network, and Ohio Board of Disabilities, Hadia's passion lies in working with families. For Hadia, there is nothing more rewarding than sharing resources and knowledge with parents to empower them to be a voice for their own children. Assalamu alaikum, Hadia.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. As Joohi said that, all of us are impacted with special needs, and that's how our journey began. Never in my years of life I thought I would end up doing what I'm doing, but I'm so grateful because my son led me to a different path. He was a preemie baby, and early on he was in NICU for almost 3.5 months, and there he had a couple of relapses where we figured out early on that he might end up with disabilities. That's what the doctors told us. But we were not sure what kind of disabilities, because he had line sepsis. He got a couple of medication which caused his hearing loss. But as Joohi said, just the word special need, it hits you hard. It comes with stigma. And when you hear about it, you have to deal with that word yourself first before you can start even using that word for your child. I did not use that word for my child for almost 2 years, but that was my process. But once I started using that word, first of all, it gave me the power of what I'm going to do next with him. I never felt sorry for me or for him, but I always worried about what is out there for him. And like Joohi said, it was hard to take him out in the community. Like autism and other spectrums, at times it's diagnosed with when they are 2 or 3 or even later. So at least they have those first couple of years of child, they're not sure, especially when they're infants or babies or till the time they're 1 or 2. With my son early on, he had to wear cochlear implants. So people would stare at him, they would ask questions. Even when we started to integrate in the community, there was a lot of stares. There were people who I didn't even know. They would come up to me and ask me questions like, when are you going to have a second child? Or what is its disability? I'm like, people I didn't even knew. And I got so overwhelmed with the question that I thought it was my safe place to be at home. And what it did was, when my son started going a little older, he started school. We started to have different set of issues. Like Joohi said, it's a journey. You're never done. Once it's the school age, then it's the IEPs, then it's the therapies. There's always a never-ending list of stuff which we have to do as special needs parents. And then we deal with our own overwhelming stuff which is going at home, because we have to be caregivers, we have to be mothers, and sometimes I think we have to be professionals as well. And what does that journey look like to us? And most of us, like mothers, are the one at the front. They talk with the doctors, they do all the appointments, and then explain everything to your spouse, and then making sure all of us go together as a family. It's a fractured family for sure. There are so many ups and downs. If my son was out of the hospital for a week, we were again there for a month. There were times where we were in the hospital for 6.5 months straight. And early on, I realized that I need to have a community. I need to have somebody to fall back on, because I cannot be the strong person. I need some support. So thankfully, my families, my in-laws were over here. So they gave me the best support they could. They would help me out so I could take naps in the afternoon. So we all need to see what is our community and what does our community look like. It could be a smaller fraction of people, or it could be bigger, depending on where you are in the journey. Now that my son is getting older, he misses out. He's the only child. So he misses out on, he doesn't have siblings. He doesn't have people to go to. So when Shabana and Shazia started the Islamic Sunday school, it was the best thing for us. He, to this day, he always had a phobia of me covering my head. And I had no idea how he is going to go to a Sunday school with him being me covering my head. But alhamdulillah, people were very, very supportive of how things were. And they actually helped me understand it was okay for me not to cover my head. So they were supportive of what my son's needs were. And slowly and gradually, he was able to adjust that it's okay, I can cover my head. It started with just attending Sunday school, to the point before pandemic, we were taking him from Jummah praise as well. So it was a journey, it was a process. And then when the community started to own us, we started as parents taking bigger steps in our community. I wouldn't say it was easy, because Sunday school with Islamic Center is very different. But once you take him out to the mosque, we had our own challenges. There were times when I was told, your son is, and he's taller than I am. Why is he in the women's section? And can't you see? And somebody would come up to me, ask me a question about what is his disability? Do you have other kids? Do you plan to have other kids? I'm like, just leave me alone. I'm at the back, just leave my son alone. And I'm like, yes, he has disability. And somebody, and it's up to you how you want to perceive what disability is. It's okay. But on the other hand, I know, as a mother of being a special needs child, I've realized this, and I think all the mothers of special needs kids, we put hindrances on our own self as well. We do not, because we think nobody will understand. But I think, as Joohi said, things have come such a long way. Everybody understands what disability is. So we need to own ourselves and our kids. And unless and until we reach out in our community and let them know what is going to work for our kids and us, they will never understand. So the biggest thing is being a voice for your kids, and it's okay. I let them ask those questions. My biggest thing is you don't have to answer everything. Just keep quiet and move away, because we need to see what works for us. And mashallah, our community is doing a huge job of making sure that all of us are integrated in the way we want it to be. And it's a process, but we can't sit back and point fingers. We have to do our share to make this community ours. So I'll end at that.
Thank you so much, Hadia. I mean, the one thing that that really motivated Samina and I to want to do this session is the powerful stories that all of you have to share, and the need for our broader community to really understand and feel what it is that you have gone through, because the fractured family syndrome, the isolation, the uncomfortable questions, even though people mean very well, sometimes we just need to be educated about what it is that the parent is going through, what it takes for them to take the steps that they're taking. So I hope that everyone on the line and that listens to this in the future really thinks about it from the perspective that you're bringing, because it is irreplaceable with anything. So with that, I want to go on and introduce our next speaker, a wonderful community member that I've known for a number of years, and I've just learned to respect her more and more with all that she has done at the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati and her wonderful child. Shazia is first and foremost a mother and a special needs advocate. She has background in biology, but left her career aspirations and job as a medical office manager to teach and advocate for her son, Samir, or Sam, who has non-speaking autism. Shazia has received extensive training in communication techniques and technology and is a level 1 certified RPM practitioner. Shazia and her son are currently involved with the United States Autism Association's advisory board. Samir is their first non-speaking presenter, and I've seen his presentations, and I'm in awe. Shazia is Samir's communications aide in USAA, as well as in college presentations and other ongoing work. Shazia serves as ICGC's Muhsen Special Needs Facilitator, thank you for that, and co-teacher for ICGC's Keys to Jannah Sunday School classroom. So thank you, Shazia. I'll turn it over to you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity today to talk a little bit about our family's journey. My name is Shazia, and I'm a mother of 2 twin boys, Sean and Samir. They're now age 21, and alhamdulillah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the journey, to give you a snapshot of what is it like to raise a child with special needs, what are the challenges as parents we face, and the different hats that we have to wear. If you could, Samina, if you could pull up the first slide. I want to share some family pictures too while I talk a little bit about our journey. Thank you. So I'm a mother to 2 twin boys, Sean and Samir, who are young adults in college. They're now 21 years of age. Our children were born premature with several challenges. Our son Samir was diagnosed with profound autism at age 2.5 through Children's Hospital, Harry's Clinic, and it was a moment that would forever change our lives. At that time, we were given a diagnosis without much recourse. There were no structured programs in place in our local schools, no real medical guidance, and certainly no educational opportunities for kids who are non-speaking with apraxia. It was a very challenging and quite lonely time. We were told he would never speak and never be functional, as he could not progress in the typical behavioral programs at the time. So we began intensive occupational speech therapies and biomed programs, which gave us some improvement, but not any substantive improvement in his symptoms. Our son could not speak with us. The school had labeled him as unteachable, and the doctors had said he had the IQ of a 2-month-old. Can I have the next slide, please? We were at a loss as we looked at programs around the nation, running from clinic to find answers. I was at my lowest point when in 2004, I saw a 60 minutes video where a mother from India had taught her autistic child how to point and handwrite. In that video, I saw a child that was moving, walking, completely silent, but as soon as he was given a pencil, he began to write poetry independently. Now, this was in direct contrast to all the medical and behavioral guidance I had been given. I was fascinated and knew in my heart that our son had just as much intelligence, so we tried to try alternative communication methods. We visited the clinic, received training and certification, and began to homeschool him and teach others. Since that time, we have met many wonderful parents, mentors, and educators who have supported us. Have the next slide. Thank you. We took the road less traveled. We taught Samir at home how to point to letters, read, independently type on a keyboard, and use the iPad. As we began to teach him, we discovered he was gifted and that he understood much more than we knew or anticipated. We advocated for an alternative learning environment and put him in the Ohio Virtual Academy, where he could get access to general curriculum. We reached out to experts at the U.S. Autism Association who confirmed and he was intelligent and helped us in mentoring him. Many years of hard work later, alhamdulillah, he is now graduated from Ohio Virtual Academy, is currently taking online courses at a local community college, and is the first non-speaking presenter and advisory board member of the U.S. Autism Association. We couldn't be more proud of him, and despite all his challenges, he is progressing in life and advocating. His goal is to explain and shed light on the sensory challenges in non-speaking autism. Our family's road is very different and non-traditional, but our experience has taught us to have a growth mindset, to look beyond what we know. We now understand that non-speaking does not mean non-thinking, and that there's a purpose in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan for our son. He has autism, he has sensory motor and medical challenges, but that is not all who he is. We firmly believe that all our kids have potential and to always presume confidence in people who move, talk, or think differently than we do. And the next slide. It's the same philosophy that is the foundation of Keys to Jannah, our special needs Sunday school program, with the guidance of Muhsen's remarkable team of educators and therapists, with the work of our amazing teacher, Samira Saidi, and the dedication of our resilient families, we are forging a new path for our children. I am so honored to be a teacher in the classroom, to get to know these amazing families and the level of faith and optimism they have. I am truly blessed. To me, they are manifestations of the best of our faith, and I only hope we can continue to support them and make our masajid and community a welcoming place for everyone. I so appreciate everything that we are doing at our community, in our community, and I'm so happy to be able just to give you a snapshot of what it's like to raise a child with special needs and all the challenges, just a few of the challenges that we have to face in terms of finding therapies, finding resources, finding educational supports, finding medical supports, finding social supports. There are many, many things that we have to do and many hats that we have to wear. In closing, I want to thank the ICGC leadership for supporting our families in this endeavor, and especially to Dr. Shazia and Dr. Samira for giving us this platform today. Thank you so much, everyone. Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you, Shazia. Thank you, Shazia. Every time I listen to you and to your son, I, who always has words, am at a loss for words for how inspired I am. And may Allah always continue to bless you and your family. You set the standard in our community for what can be done, mashallah. And with that, I'd like to introduce our last panelist, who is also a very good friend of mine. Shabana Shakir-Ahmed. She also wears many hats. She's a tours and talk show at the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati. She's been a tour guide and speaker for over 15 years, working to combat Islamophobia by educating the community about Islam and Muslims. She's also a certified speaker with the Islamic Networks Group and one of the founders of Cincinnati Muslim Women, a giving charity that has donated over $180,000 to local charities here in Cincinnati. In addition, Shabana holds an MBA from Xavier University, serves as the business director for Seniors First, and runs a special needs Sunday school classroom at ICGC. In 2010, she was selected to the Cincinnati Enquirer's Woman of the Year list in recognition of her leadership in the community. And knowing Shabana as I do, all the work she does, what always amazes me is how easy she makes it look, mashallah. With that, I give her that.
Jazakallah khair, Samina. I am just impressed by listening to all these panelists. I don't have very much to say, but what I really want to say is thank you so much to Hadia and Shazia. I know their stories, but every time I hear them, I just get so emotional because I've seen the progress, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and your families for everything. And I pray that your boys are, I just have no words. I'm just so impressed with everything you both do. So thank you again. My son, Salah, is 22 years old, like Joohi's daughter, and is very much an adult. He was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder when he was 5 years old. He's verbal, and he received his high school diploma and finished his transitional training. And now he's in the path of hopefully, inshallah, employment of some sort. So please make dua for all our kids. I know Hadia and Shazia shared their personal stories, and I'm going to take a little bit of a different path. I'm not going to share my personal journey with my son with autism. Rather, I'm going to speak to you about why we started the Sunday school classroom at ICGC. And I think that's really important for people to hear. There were many reasons why I started this, but the main reason why I started it was I was very selfish. I did it for my son. So the story is that I was driving my two daughters to Sunday school like I do every Sunday, and my son Salah would sit in the back seat and watch his sisters go into the building. And every Sunday I would look in the rearview mirror and I would say, Salah, what are we doing today? And he, sometimes he would say he wanted to go just back home, or maybe go to the grocery store, library, whatever that it was that he wanted to do. But one Sunday, as I was driving my daughters to Sunday school, and he watched his sisters go again to the building, he was looking out the window, and I looked in the rearview mirror and I said, Salah, so what are we doing today? And he turned and looked at me and he said, go inside. And at that time, my heart just broke, because I didn't have an answer for him, because I knew at our place of worship, there was no space for Salah. There was no space for kids with disabilities. They did not have the teachers, the classrooms to accommodate my son. And the first thing I thought of was, why can't my child participate and learn about our beautiful deen and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like any other kid? I mean, where was the hindrance there? What was the issue? That why couldn't he be inside just like my two daughters? And so that's when I realized I had to do something. And as Hadia and Shazia have shared with you, if you just noticed all the things that goes on in our households with all the other challenges that we had, I thought, we work so much on helping our kids mentally, physically, their dietary needs, whatever that they need. But the one part that I felt was missing was their deen. And I did not want that taken away from my son. So I went to ICGC board, amazing board, by the way, kudos to them, amazing board. And I also went to the Sunday school administration and worked with them. Thank you to Thilat Rizvi, Ghulam Asif, and the entire team for helping us. Spoke to Shazia, and we decided, even if it was just Sam and Salah in that classroom, we were going to do this. I didn't care. We were going to get a classroom, and we're going to start. And we did start off with 5 kids. And alhamdulillah, today we have 2 classrooms, and kudos to Shazia and Samira Saidi, who now run those 2 classrooms. Very successful, and I hope inshallah it continues to grow and help our community. The second reason why I started this Sunday school classroom is that I wanted to stop the stigma. I am tired of hearing the things that I hear. I thought this type of stigma stopped with my parents' generation when they came here into this country, that it was some cultural baggage that they brought with them, that families with special needs kids or with disabilities should be looked down upon or felt sorry for or don't belong in our masajids. Really? Come on. So I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't want that. And the only way to educate our community is for them to see our kids. They do not need to be left at home. So I asked myself, where are our Muslim kids with Down syndrome? Where are our Muslim kids with cerebral palsy? In wheelchairs? Where are adults with disabilities? Why don't we see them in our prayer space? I'll tell you why we don't see them in our prayer space. They're at home, just like Joohi said. They are isolated. They are discriminated. When they come to the masajid, like Hadia said, people are staring. People are making comments. People are asking personal questions that you would not ask any other person. And so we want to reach out to these families and to these parents living here in Cincinnati and anyone else that is listening. Whether you want to reach out to Muhsen, reach out to ICGC, I want you to feel supported. I don't want you to feel ashamed. I don't want you to feel embarrassed. Come to our prayer service. We will help you, accommodate you, give you a safe space. And, you know, and if somebody bothers you, come see me.
Wow. I mean, all I can say is I know all three of these women fairly well. And my heart is full, not because I feel sorry for anyone or, you know, anything, but because I am in total admiration of their strength, their willingness to really walk the talk. Is that the work that they are doing? Yes, they have an absolute reason to do it for their child, but the service that they're providing to the community by talking to you openly like this, by being there every Sunday, by having their child in the spaces so we can all learn and appreciate all of God's will in creation is just overwhelming to me. And I want to thank you, all four of you, for allowing us to really grow to be better Muslims, inshallah. I will just share one quick story, and then Samina will just go with the questions. I see a lot of comments, but I know you're tracking them, and people, we're going to have resources available. We're going to post them, you know, and we'll provide you guys the links of all of these wonderful things that they're talking about. The story that I want to share is I was in the masjid for a packed Jummah one day, and all of a sudden I had heard a little bit of rustle, and I saw Samir run into the masjid, and you know, and he just let out a little noise of excitement. I mean, like, you know, your sheer joy that a child exhibits when they experience something so beautiful and powerful. And I saw Shazia right behind him, and, you know, she approached him and talked to him. And then he stood right in front of me and said his Jummah prayer. I will tell you, I will never, ever forget the moment, and how beautiful it was, and how wonderful it made me feel that we were able to provide this space for him. And the glow that I saw on Shazia's face was irreplaceable. She was in a meeting afterwards, and I kind of barged in and I said, I just need to give you a hug. That's it. And so again, thank you to all of you. Samina, questions? You want to kick it off? You know, I'm in this handicap mode with my device here. So if you want to text me, you start and then you can text me, okay?
So the first question that came in was, and maybe this is something Joohi can lead into, please address how can we as individuals in the community be helpful without being intrusive to families with special needs kids. Some families are open, but others I know are still in the closet with their children's disabilities.
Sure, absolutely. I think one of the things I'm asked a lot is, what do you do when you see a family like this? How do you approach them? And one of the biggest things is, you know, how do you approach anyone, any community member? You say salam. I mean, I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but I'm really being honest. You say salam. And it should not hinder you from approaching them as you would anybody else in the community. And I think, as it was mentioned, you don't need to pry. You don't need to say, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with her? And as a parent, I've been asked that. I've had other parents scoot their child away from my child. You know how hurtful that is? You don't want to do anything that you wouldn't want done to yourself. So say salam, make friends, and address the individual with special needs. Whether you think they're verbal, whether you think they're nonverbal, whether you think they'll understand you, address them directly. They are a human being, and give them that dignity and respect. One of the other things you can do is, you need, you know, again, it depends on your relationship. You need to get to know them. I had a friend in the community who was an acquaintance, who was, you know, someone I knew. And she asked me privately, you know, would it be okay if I just, you know, came to your home? I mean, it seemed like a strange question. She said, I want to support you, but I don't feel like I know your daughter well enough. Can I come to your home and perhaps spend some time? And mashallah, she became actually the lead teacher at one of our classrooms, and she learned how to interact with my daughter and learned, you know, her likes, her dislikes. So don't hesitate to ask people, you know, if you need anything, let me know. Just like you would tell a friend, hey, if you feel like talking, just let me know. It's really as simple as that. And, you know, others can add to that answer, but that's how you approach anybody and any situation. You want to feel welcome. You don't want to feel like you're such an odd entity in the community. You're just another community member at the end of the day.
I would agree with Joohi and just add a little that don't approach her as you're feeling sorry for her just because she has a special needs child. Just approach her as a regular human being like you would do anybody in the community. Just introduce yourself, and special needs child would come in the end only if that person would want to share that. It might not even happen. Let it happen organically after 3 or 4 conversations. But just don't start a friendship based on that you need to feel sorry for her, because that's the last thing as a special need mom I would want. I would hate for somebody to feel sorry for me or my child.
That's actually a question that came in. How do we keep people from feeling sorry for us?
But if I could say something on that, I think one of the most important aspects is that our children, they're people. They're people like everybody else. And I think we need to presume competence. That they may move differently, they may, you know, act differently or say or talk differently, but they have intellect. Majority of our children are intelligent young people, and you know, there's nothing to be sorry for. They're just different and neurologically different, but they have a lot of potential and capability, just as any other child does. I think that's really important that we realize that.
And I'd like to add that verbal, nonverbal, they hear everything you say. So if you think you can talk like they're not in the room, you know, don't trust me. They know everything you're saying. And I also want, when Hadia was talking about people not feeling, you know, don't feel sorry for those people that have children with special needs or family members with special needs. Yes, we have challenges. Yes, you know, we are angry sometimes. We have struggles. There's sacrifices we give up, and we can go on and on about that. But let me tell you this. The rewards are so much greater than those challenges. I would not trade my life for anything. You know, the day that I found out my son was diagnosed, yeah, it was a terrible place to be in. It was there for a long time. Looking back at it, you know, 17 years later, I cannot imagine my life any different. So the empathy that I have, I'm more gracious. I'm more blessed a lot of times. I'm so aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. Every day when I see my child, I'm reminded of him every day. So don't feel sorry for us. Really, we're blessed.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, Shabana, all of your attitude is really also a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, he challenges us, but then he gifts us, and he gives us the strength in order to really improve the life of those around us in so many ways. One thing, and I know we started on this, is maybe each of you can just very quickly share about one thing that you wanted people to really understand about, disabilities or your particular story. And I know some of that has already come out in the conversation, but, is there a takeaway that each one of you wants to make sure that you convey to the people that are listening today or will in the future? And anybody can go.
Since I said Joohi's name wrong earlier, I'll start with Joohi now.
It's funny because you called me Ruhi, and I have a sister named Joohi.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
And that's often done. So I'll answer. My parents used to call us all different names, so it's okay. No. And this sounds really strange to say, but you know, we in our communities, I think I can confidently say, people label us as, oh, like that's the poster child for disability because we're the outspoken ones. There's more to us than just that. I have other interests. I like food. I like to travel. I like things on TV. I like books. I enjoy other activities. So if there's one thing I want people to take away and know, yes, this has become the work of my life. This has possibly become the purpose of my life, and Allah knows best. But we definitely want people to know, and I want the takeaway to be, you can talk to us about other things. We can talk about what you like to eat. We can talk about our funny quirks and our hobbies. I love to go on a girls' trip. I'd love to, spend time with people and talk about other things besides my life. And sometimes it's a nice break, honestly. And again, to echo Shabana, I wouldn't change it for the world, because Allah has a plan, and truly, truly, you see the best in people, you see the worst in people, but it helps us improve every day. And so that's what I'll leave everyone with.
And I think I agree with that. And the biggest takeaway from me is I have learned to focus on my son's abilities rather than his disability. And that has really kept me going. He has the best sense of humor. And we were talking about dictator with his teacher when he was virtual last year, and they were talking about a dictator is somebody who makes you do stuff against your will. And he was like, my mom makes me do stuff against my will. His sense of humor just gets me every time. And I'm just in awe of how much he takes things literally. And then we joke about it. But that is what keeps us going every day, to enjoy his sense of humor and the thing he's able to do, not worry about what he's not. So I think that's the biggest takeaway of my life, of realizing what his limitations are, but yet to push him, but in a way that we know he can do everything. And that's our biggest thing. Any parent would want that for their child. For them, the sky is the limit. And that's about it.
They're special gifts. I mean, each of them has incredible special gifts. And before we, ask Shazia to share, and Shabana, if she has anything to add, Samina did put a number of resources in the chat. So please take advantage of that. If there is anyone in particular that you need to be in touch with directly, you can make that request. I know Joohi has already put in the information about Muhsen. So I wanted to make sure that everybody looks at the resources that are out there and available to all of you.
So yes, lots and lots of comments are coming in. And I think a common thread is just how inspired everyone is, how informative this has been. One question that came in is there an absolute do not do with special needs families? Shabana, you have a smile on your face.
It's just, we're parents like anyone else, just like what Joohi said. We've got so many other interests going on in our lives. It doesn't have to be just about our kid. It might seem like it is always about our kid, and I get that, and I understand that, but, talk to us like you would talk to anybody else. It's okay to ask, and I know I come across really harsh sometimes. It's okay to ask. Just phrase it in a better way than besides what's wrong with your kid. I'm always like, what's wrong with you? But just be nice. My goodness, how hard is that for people?
Well, one thing I do want to say, what not to do not exclude.
Yeah.
Like often, again, with those of us with multiple children, my other daughters would get invited to a lot of things. My other daughters would go to the masjid to play basketball with the youth girls. Why was my other daughter not invited? If she gets out there in a gym, she shoots hoops nonstop and hits them all. Like she'll show everyone. So my point is, don't. I think someone put in the chat, don't assume, yes. And don't exclude, because it's very hurtful to a parent, and it's really hurtful to the siblings. And the siblings should be showcased here, and we should put a spotlight on them. They're the most amazing young individuals who live this life with, a family member. And it's so painful sometimes that they get the opportunities. There's an unspoken guilt that they, don't have that same opportunity for the sibling. So try and include the sibling and try and be sensitive to that. That would be one thing I would say, not to exclude them.
Another question is there any platform for families to communicate online?
For special needs families?
I think
Joohi might be able to answer that.
There's
Is there
a
something with Muhsen?
there's a national Facebook group. It's closed, and you'd have to answer questions to get in. It's called Muhsen Support. There are over 400 or 500 families there online, and it's a great exchange discussion place. For that matter, though, go to your facilitators at ICGC if you're from that community, and let them know, go on their website, go on ICGC's website, go to the special needs tab and fill out the survey. Let them know that you're in the community. Come out to the programs. I think one of the panelists said the onus is on us as families too. If the masjid is providing, if the community is trying, try and step out of your comfort zone and try and show up. But yeah, Muhsen Support, and also, contact your local masjid. We're happy to put people in touch. There's a lot of online activity for families like this. We have WhatsApp groups around the country too, for sure.
I was just going to add in that, yes, at ICGC, we do have a WhatsApp group, and, we do meet online once in a while, just kind of like a social to talk about issues and so forth. And we have a great Sunday school program. So if you're interested, that information is on our website, and just contact us and let us know.
No, thank you for mentioning that, Joohi. And Shazia, the special needs is on the homepage, icgc.us. And in addition to letting us know that you're out there, if you want to be part of WhatsApp, what we want to be able to do, number one is to really acknowledge the amazing work and stories of these individuals. The other is to really look at how it is that we can expand the support and services that are provided. So if you're interested in volunteering or supporting in other ways, please let these amazing people, or Samina and I, know that. The other thing is that, how many ever people we have in this session listening in and these wonderful comments, we're still not reaching people that are isolated out there. So if you are aware of another family in a caring, compassionate way, let them know what is available and how it is that might be able to just, initially take a peek, and then whenever they're comfortable, is take more in-depth advantage. So I think all of us have a role to play in moving, the work and the support forward. Samina, do we have a last couple of questions that maybe we can try to address? Or
Sure. One is, I'm a high school teacher who works with students with special needs. It's disheartening to see families who refuse post-secondary services and supports that are available, because most services come with the word disabilities. How do I encourage families to allow us to connect them with such services prior to exiting high school services?
I think the thing starts early on, if that's their stigma part, you have to work with the parents and making them realize it's okay to ask for help. We cannot, as parents, we need to have those things put in place for our kids, and it's not about us. And that's what I tell most of the parents, it's not about us, it's about them. Where do you see yourself in 10 years when you're not there? Who's going to support your kid? If those kids have siblings, good, but we have no guarantees those siblings will take care of you. So we need to raise our special needs kids with things that what if happens some things to us next year? How are they going to support themselves? So I think those candid conversations with them, and again, depending where the parents are at, try to meet where they're at and what works for them. I think they need to start there.
I kind of wanted to add to what Hadia was saying, that yes, I agree. That is, I think the approach that we need to take a more proactive approach when we're educating our kids. And I think that when they're younger, if we start working on identifying, what are their talents? What can they do? In usually the elementary school years, we're just dealing with all this IEPs. What standard have they not met? What haven't they done yet? But if we can find creative ways of educating them and showing parents that these are some of the avenues that you can use, and this is the technology you can use, I think that goes a long way to helping parents realize that, hey, my kid has potential. I can work on these things with them in the post-secondary area. So
one other quick thing to add is if you don't label, you will miss out on services, period. That label is on a piece of paper. Nobody's going to see that piece of paper except for you and the service provider. So to parents out there, as someone who now has a 22-year-old, every single thing that you can get out there is important. If you have a broken foot, you're not going to hide the fact that you have a broken foot. You need help for that broken foot. If you have heart disease, you need the label that you have heart disease so that you're going to be able to get the right medication and necessary things. So you're doing a disservice to the child because of your fear of that word or that label. And I have to stress think about it. You're not doing them any good by ignoring the label, and that's important for services. That's important for their future, Social Security, housing, a lot of things down the road. So just think forward. That's all.
Absolutely. So we are nearing the end of our session, and as you can tell, there's so much more to discuss. I mean, we could do a whole nother conversation on young adults and what happens then. Just from the glimpse of the conversation, I'm sure that's a whole nother area to explore. So we definitely do need a part 2, but probably if there's some take-home message that we all can kind of just, internalize is what I heard is, number 1, don't exclude families, don't exclude people. Number 2 is continue to increase our level of awareness and empathy. Number 3, support the programs. A little plug for Muhsen, because imagine where would we be without Muhsen in our country, right? Muhsen is what pushed us to do some of the things that we did even. So support the organizations that are doing the work, and make a special dua for these incredible 4 ladies, because I can't say it enough how much I'm impressed by how much courage it takes to really share something about yourself. So thank you, Jazakallah khair.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have anything?
And I would just add to that, Samina, is that, just remember what Hadia said, it's not about you, it's about how to provide what is needed in order to further the life and well-being of your child. And so, I don't share this very often. I had 2 aunts that had severe disabilities, and my grandmother was an incredible human being. But, with her and in being in Pakistan, she didn't have the resources that she had. And even though incredible support from family, you are so fortunate to have so many of these resources that are available. And so, do everything that you can. I have seen Shabana and Shazia, and I haven't seen Hadia as well, but it's incredible. They have tapped and learned about every single resource that's available in this region and across the country. Why? Because it is of benefit to their child in the short term and in the long term. So do not let your inhibitions keep you from tapping every possible door that you can. And may Allah bless not just you guys, but your children and your families and everybody who's supporting you. So thank you so much for being part of this conversation. And I have a feeling we'll be coming back to this topic again, as Samina said. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.